Which word of the day? Today's word is depictokinetic, adjective. Depictokinetic is the use of magic that allows the user to cast magical spells dealing with art. Users can create, shape, and manipulate arts, and the media is used to create them. The arts are a vast subdivision of culture united by their employment of the human creative impulse, including painting, sculpting, printmaking, photography, and other visual media, poetry, novels, and short stories, and the performing arts being music, dance, magic, as in like magic tricks, theater, and film.
You haven't even read that?
Wait, what are you doing with the book?
So he has the confidence to finish the story.
Hear now the words of the witches.
This is Kevin, and welcome to Words of the Witches, the Charmed podcast that will guide you through the lesser-known published material in the Charmed universe and decide how it fits into the grand narrative of the TV series. Welcome again, spellworders, to another episode of Words of the Witches. Not too much today, but I do want to acknowledge that German Comic Con happened, Alisa Milano's first convention recently, and I had lots of friends there, but some of them appeared on this podcast. So I just kudos to everyone who got to go see Alisa Milano and see all of the great things and get her autograph and get pictures with her. It's such an exciting time because she was one of the rare actresses that a lot of people didn't get to meet. I got to meet her in New York, and so I'm kind of sad that it was in Germany. I couldn't go that far, but it looked like a lot of fun. I'm glad people enjoyed her, and I'm glad friends got to see her. That was great. Next, I did want to read out loud 2 new reviews we got for the podcast. They're very wonderful. The first one is 5 stars from Wiccan Guy. It says, "Great podcast with great host. I am so glad I found this podcast. Kevin does a great job keeping the listener entertained and fully engaged as he goes over the books chapter by chapter. I haven't been listening for very long, but he definitely has a new follower and will share to as many people as I can. A+, dude. Keep up the fantastic work." Oh, wonderful. Thank you for that. Shout out to Jason Luna. He messaged me on Facebook and told me, too, that he actually told Holly and Brian about this podcast at a con. So that's cool that, they're starting to hear sprinklings of this show. The next review is another 5-star review from 2T2 fan. It says, "A whole new world of Charmed fun. I've never read the books or magazines related to Charmed before. Not only do I get to read and then listen to this wonderful commentary, but Kevin's deep knowledge of the show adds that extra layer of fun and enjoyment for me. It made me want to go get the books myself, and as a book reader, I have so many other books to get to, haha. If you like Charmed and or were curious about the written works, give this show a listen." Thank you for that. And this is just a really great review for any prospective listeners to see. I think that really gives the gist of what they would be getting upon listening. So thank you for that, too. Oh, wonderful reviews. I love it. You guys are amazing. Thank you, Spellworders, so much. All right, so let's jump on into our episode of Picture Perfect. Here we go. So this is Words of the Witches, episode 33. Ha 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 ha. I have with me as a guest this week, Gabriel. And you are joining us from Brazil, correct?
Yes, I'm Brazilian. I have lived almost all my life here, except when I went to college abroad, but Brazilian, born and raised.
I love that. What's your relationship with Charmed like? Like, where did the passion start?
It's a little embarrassing, but when I was on my teenage years, I started studying Wicca because I thought I would be a witch or something. Me and my friends, this was like maybe by the end of middle school. And by that time, Charmed was already happening. And I remember I downloaded the second episode.
Okay.
Of the TV show, the one where
Javna, I've Got You Under My Skin, that one?
Yeah, I think so. It's the one that Piper is afraid of getting into the church. I think that's
Yes, that's the one.
I remember that I downloaded it and there was no subtitle. And my English was not good at that time. So I had to watch it like 7 or 8 times to get a grasp of what's going on.
Watch the facial expressions, kind of get the clues.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The volume was so loud, it was deafening. And But I got the story, but it was very difficult to download. I mean, after that, after I think 5 years or so, I got cable in my house because cable in Brazil is very expensive. And then I watched probably season four, five, and part of season six as it aired in Brazil. After that, I watched it when streaming came around. I think I've watched it three times, except season eight, because, well,
You know, everyone's least favorite season.
I am coming to terms with it, but it's still a rough spot, I think.
Yeah, and we're covering season 8 right now on my other podcast, and it's definitely hard at times, but there are a lot of good moments in it too. We can't discount the good things that are still in it, and compared to other shows, I think it's still a solid show even then. But it just not what we're used to in terms of Charmed.
Anything that goes on for that long will have a season that's going to be a little
Yeah.
off. I mean, how many seasons Sabrina the Teenage Witch had? Like six, and the last
Yeah,
one horrible.
yeah.
And
So
the ending is beautiful. At least the ending of Charmed is very cute. I like the last episode. I think it's very charmed, but the last is my least favorite season.
so you teach,
Yes,
right?
I teach English and I teach in English. So my major was in English language and literature, and then I went to study international education. So now I teach English and I teach international subjects in English here in Brazil. So like this year I'm teaching economics and business, which it's a journey.
I love that though, because now you're on here, an English American podcast talking about a book. So it's like it's bringing it
It's
back.
so insane. It is so insane. If you would travel in time and tell in 1999 when I started studying English, like, oh, 2022 after a pandemic, what's going to happen is you're going to be recording a podcast because you read books in English. And the fact is that I do most of my life in English right now. All the podcasts I listen to are in English. All the YouTube channels I follow are in English from around the world, but all of them are in English. So
Cool. Cool. So I guess we'll jump into this book then. It's called Picture Perfect. And this was written by Cameron Doki, who wrote Haunted by Desire, Truth and Consequences, and Witch Trap in the War and Witches anthology book before this. And this was published September 27th, 2005, which is actually 2 days after the season premiere of season 8 that this came out originally.
but this is not set in season 8, is it?
No. The novels take about a year to write. So the novels are always going to be a little bit behind the show. So this actually takes place in season 6. They say between season 6, episode 4, and Witch Duck. So the same parameters we had for last book. So Power of Three Blondes and Witch Duck is where they put this book.
Am I crazy, or should we have Chris in this time frame?
You're not crazy. I do have a note about that. And actually, any of the books that take place in season 6 could have argued for Chris. But I'll talk about what I think about that when we get to canonical. But yes, definitely something to bring up. Yeah, and this was reprinted November 7th, 2005. But yeah, this came out when season 8 was brand new airing. So this is kind of fun to know. Just a good contextual reference, Something cool about this book too, actually this book and the last couple books, is they started having ads for like other Charmed media. So like this one in particular has like ad for a Charmed magazine, the official magazine that comes out, which we're going to be covering on this podcast as well, as ad for the trading cards, the new Inkworks trading cards. I think this was for Connections. It doesn't say which set it is, but I have all the trading card sets. And then it also has ad for the season 1 DVD, which they celebrated during the 150th episode. They celebrated season 1 coming out. So
I think mine is the reprint, but we have the ad for the following books and some books that have already passed.
okay, interesting. So yeah. Okay. I always wondered if there's much difference between the original and the reprint, because I always have all the original ones. So Good to
And
know.
mine came from the UK.
Okay, so
I
it's a
bought from
UK
the UK,
copy.
so probably there is also this difference.
Sure.
How would you think that if Charmed was happening as a TV show, or if all the things were real, how would you think the show would tackle the pandemic and being isolated and all that?
Oh, yeah, that's a tricky one. I feel like there is a season 8 episode that kind of connects to this a little bit. Hocus Pocus, where there's that disease that's
Mhm.
going around. Um, so I think it probably would have had to do with some kind of government conspiracy stuff. They would have had like the government experimenting on demons, or finding out about magic and keeping it secret, and then they're having some kind of trying to weaponize it. I guess I would think. So, but yeah, with how would they fight the demons? I don't. It would be really hard. It would be really different.
Are demons like, do they get COVID? I don't think so. Well, I think it would be an interesting idea of how they would tackle that.
For sure. The whole world shifted, and it's crazy.
It is.
So the cover, season 6 pictures. Phoebe is in the front with her pixie cut, and then we have a recycled Rose McGowan picture, same from the Warren Witches, and then we have Holly in her like sexy black outfit, even though you can't see her outfit, but I know what picture this is.
My God.
So there's that one, and then it has behind them in the background like some clouds, and then all these antique frames for like art and paintings and stuff, like all these artist frames. And then it has the tagline: "The face of evil has been revealed."
It's a good tagline.
It's a good tagline. It definitely kind of gets you thinking. Then the back of the book says, "A face revealed and rage unleashed, old anger set upon the world. 3 sisters must come together to fight, or worse fates will surely be unfurled." Not the best rhyme I've heard, but sure. The Bay Mirror is covering the grand reopening of Mural House, a San Francisco landmark built in the 1920s, and Phoebe invites her sisters to attend. Piper's got her hands full with P3, but Paige happily tags along to see the once famous artist colony that housed great art, passion, and scandal. Ooh. I know. Notable for all 3 is the story of the building's architect, William Lancaster, who, during the construction, fell in love with an artist, a young divorcee named Isabella Marshall. Their relationship was tumultuous at best, eventually ending in tragedy, and in William's disappearance. Oh. The hoopla surrounding, I love that word, hoopla.
Yeah.
The hoopla surrounding Mural House's reopening has made William and Isabella's love affair legendary. With the permission of Isabella's daughter, Lucille, Phoebe has been reprinting the couple's love letters in her column. She joins Lucille, now an elderly woman, at the gala's main event, the unveiling of a long painted-over mural. Lucille is visibly upset when the mural is revealed. In fact, she seems horrified. Before passing out from fear, she whispers, "The evil has been released."
Which is a great thing to say right before you back out.
Yes, just make it as ominous as possible.
Exactly.
Keep
Exactly.
them guessing.
So, yeah, I don't know if I would use that sentence if I'm about to pass out, but oh well.
Yeah, so prologue, it's just a poetic telling of the perspective of some being. We don't know what. It's some kind of being talking, and he's like, "I'm trapped in colors. I gotta get out of here. I gotta get revenge on the people who did this to me." And so it's very, very kind of vague and ominous, but we're like, oh, somebody's trapped and wants revenge. Ha ha. And then it goes to chapter 1. Phoebe and Paige are decked out and ready to attend a gala for the reopening of the Lancaster building, which was built in the 1920s as an artist colony. This was all in the back of the book. It has recently been damaged in earthquakes, but is now repaired and going to reopen after the remodel, I guess, or the
Renovation?
renovation, the beautifying of it. Yes, thank you. People nicknamed it the Mural House for the grand paintings on the outside. So on the outside of the building, there's just lots of other paintings and murals just to tell people that this is an artist place. You are welcome as an artiste. And then it gets into like some really heavy exposition. So we learn a lot. So Phoebe is hoping to meet the daughter of Isabella Marshall at the event. Isabella wanted to create a space for artists, and she is the one that established the Mural House. But as she was doing that, she fell in love with the architect of the building, William Lancaster. He became her second husband. So her first husband, she divorced because he was kind of a jerk to her. So she left with her daughter and came here and then married this guy. But soon William became jealous that Isabella's work overshadowed his own, and he tried to control her. The couple would write each other letters over their relationship before one day William disappeared without a trace. Isabella's daughter, Lucille, allowed Phoebe to publish the letters for the paper.
I'm not sure if writing letters to one another is the best way to solve your relationship problems.
Especially if you are like living together already. Like, oh, I can't tell you your face. I need to get it all out and write it.
And then
like,
you write it, spell check it. And the person has to read it in front of you.
Maybe it's just the romanticized way of doing things. Like everything is so, heightened when you put it in a letter. It's concrete evidence, This is where it gets a little weird too, because so they're gonna go to the event, but they have to give Piper a ride to the club. But before that, they also have to like get Wyatt's babysitter. So they have to go pick up Wyatt's babysitter, and they have Piper and Wyatt, and then go to drop her off at the P3, and then go to the event.
But now that you're saying that, I think I remember the fact that they had 2 cars at the house. Piper had a really big mom's car.
They had 3 cars. Phoebe had a car, Paige had a car, and Piper had a car. They all had their own cars at this point.
My biggest pet peeve with Charmed?
What?
Money. The way they handle money is truly magical. Because I would much rather have some sort of explanation from... I don't know, the elders sent us a payment so we can save the world. Or, I don't know. I mean, it's so insane because I'm like, only Piper is working. The club is doing well, but sometimes it's not, depending on what the plot of the episode needs. They never have a financial problem, ever.
I know, it's crazy. And when they do, it's just only for, the episode. You're the only one working. We need to figure this out. And then but it's never a real issue. And there's the one part where they put the house as collateral.
Mm-hmm.
Because Cole is being a jerk to them. But there's that. But still, they never have real money problems. Maybe the elders granted them with a money tree in the backyard that we never see. Let's just pick this today. So yeah, but they go. And the thing about this too is because there's a killer on the loose. There's also a murderer all around the San Francisco area, and they're like, oh, everyone's on a little bit on edge. But because of that, Piper decides to have the babysitter watch Wyatt at the club in her office.
Which makes a lot of sense.
Yes, while she's working. It does make sense, but it's a lot to, I can imagine that car ride.
Chapter 2. At the Mural House, Paige and Phoebe admired the beautiful paintings outside the building, now in full restoration. The killer that was on the loose watched the Mural House from across the street. He revealed in his skills and how police and the masses were baffled by them. He liked that the citizens were full of fear, but not full enough. You're fearing, but you're still going to attend a gala because, I'm not paralyzed by fear. I still have this cute dress that I want to parade around the city. So I'm afraid for my life. Yes. However, the dress is cute, so we're going with it.
Yeah. So it was really strange because it's this guy, another vague description of this person, watching from the bushes across the street. It's oh, I have plans. Mm-hmm. Oh. Chapter 3, Phoebe meets up with Lucille Marshall, which is the daughter of Isabella, who made the Mural House. And she is an elderly, stout woman who has been generally reclusive her whole life. She kind of stayed inside and didn't really see much of the world. Lucille, having read Phoebe's column, because she's already published the letters that her mother and William wrote to each other, she's disappointed to realize that the problems her mother faced were still affecting women today, which I think, it's those type of relationship issues, romantic issues, they're timeless and they're always going to come up.
Yeah.
Phoebe agreed that it was frightening even. Lucille suddenly stood straight into Phoebe's eyes and she's like, "What?" She said, "Frightening. I hope you never need to know how much." She just got very, like, stared blankly at her eyes. I'm like, oh, well, that was interesting.
It was intense. It's an intense moment when they meet.
Yeah. She's like, why was that reaction happening? Then it cuts to Maxwell Harrington the Third. Oh, he's so fancy, the Third. He's head of the restoration project, and he calls Lucille to the stage because, you know, she's the sole survivor of this whole family thing. But I told him not to call me because she does not like crowds and she doesn't want to go up there. But then Lucille requests Phoebe to go up to the mic with her. So she does go up, but she's like, "Phoebe, come with me." And that's how that one ended.
When I was reading it, I was like, okay, so she's going to be the charmed one's next best friend, as often the innocent of the week is. But I was like, it makes sense with the character of Phoebe. Phoebe is that person that makes friends for life. I don't know, waiting for her coffee or something like that.
Exactly. She bonds with people very easily. Even the most, like, you know, reclusive, kind of off-putting people, she'll, like, find a way to, like, bond with them. Yeah.
And Lucille is presented as very clever, full of zingers. Like, she doesn't miss a beat.
Oh, yeah.
So P3 is bustling. People are going out just for fear of being home alone while a killer is out there. Piper goes to check on a guy who they cut off for having too many drinks. His name is Norman Jones, but they call him Mr. Grizzly. He's angry drunk. Being there. And then we are presented also to Gil Townsend,
yeah.
Just name. Okay. Who is interested in the position of manager at the P3. He handles the situation very well, and Piper decides to hire him right away, which is how you do business, apparently, is the first step.
Yeah, because she notices, like, the rest of her staff are really impressed by him. They kind of really like his vibe. He is very kind of charismatic, too. So he's got a lot of really kind of... He's big and strong. He's got some sex appeal. Got some confidence. He's very nice, you know, so I get it. So she sits down with him, and she's like, "Yeah, would you like to come be manager?" Which is very unusual for Piper in this, which they point out later on.
But the fact that they pointed out, and there is the whole scene with the discussion among the sisters on how she never does things like that and why she did it then, it makes it seem very natural that it could have happened.
Right. Chapter 5, back at the gala, everyone makes fun of Maxwell for his pretension. So Maxwell Harrington the Third. Lucille doesn't like him. She's like, "What kind of person names their kids after themselves?" She's like, that's so pretentious. And he's exactly like that. He's just kind of a very pompous kind of guy. Paige gave him the nickname Mr. Fuddy Duddy, which is pretty funny. Maxwell reveals Isabella's private studio, which no one has seen for 70 years. Lucille suddenly exclaimed in despair. She's like, "Oh no!" Maxwell also showcases a full-body painting of William Lancaster that has been newly discovered during the restoration. Lucille then yells, "The evil has been released!" And she calls Maxwell. She's like, "You idiot! You pompous, arrogant fool!" And then she faints. And then it has another, like, side thing where we get the perspective of this person being that's very vague, some kind of evil. We know it's some kind of evil thing, but we don't know what. And it's like the trapped being from the prologue. He feels a beautiful pain. He's like, "My release is nigh." And then the pain is proof that he's won. So he's kind of like, "Oh yes, I'm getting out of here."
This chapter actually has my favorite interaction between Lucille and Phoebe. It's when Phoebe asks, "You don't think you're remarkable?" And then Lucille goes, "I know I'm remarkable, and that's why I don't need people telling me that." And I was like, this bitch has it.
She's great.
Yes.
Yes.
It was great. But this, I was like, for me, it was when I truly understood who this Lucille person was and the
Exactly.
type of character that that the author wants us to get to know. You know,
She was definitely a firecracker. She's like your best friend, the grandma that you all wish you had.
yeah, the rich grandma you always wanted.
Exactly.
Doesn't sound the half bad.
No.
So in chapter 6, Lucille is being kept at the hospital, somewhat against her will. She's very strong-headed. The sisters discuss how Lucille said evil when she looked at the painting. They note how after Isabella painted William, she painted over it to cover it up. Piper tells Phoebe and Paige that she hired Gil Townsend, this name. They are shocked that Piper would hire someone so spur of the moment.
Yeah, so Lucille's in the hospital, and yeah, they're like, oh, you hired somebody. Interesting. Chapter 7, Phoebe visits Lucille in the hospital with balloons. She comes with balloons because they're all out of flowers, which, sure.
For shaped balloons for an elderly woman who passed out while screaming, the evil has been released. Not sure the best choice, but
Yes.
Phoebe's known for not making the best choices in her life. So when it comes to buying, and the thing is, have you ever bought a bouquet of balloons or balloons to give to someone?
A few. Nothing major, but a little bit, yeah.
Played fairly easily, and they look saggy and sad in like 5 minutes. So I don't think you wanna. I don't know. I would have gone for the flowers.
Right, right. But this is where Phoebe pries Lucille to tell her why she was so terrified last night. And Lucille is really like not wanting to say anything. She's very hesitant. But after some give and take and some more prodding, Lucille does confide in Phoebe and tells her that there's more to her mother's story. She says Miranda Nance, which was a friend of her mother, and the last artist to join the artist colony, and Donovan Hawthorne, William's devoted assistant, were also key players in their history. So now we have two more people that we never knew about before. So after William was jealous of her mother for getting so much praise in her art, Donovan resented that William's relationship with Isabella caused him pain. So Donovan was like his assistant. He was mad that William was so upset about not being the coolest guy in town. And so William wanted Isabella, but only the parts of her that couldn't overshadow his own accomplishments.
So basically, just any given straight man.
Yeah. Toxic masculinity. Anytime his ego is butthurt, he has to find a way to control the woman. It's so horrible. So yeah, there's that. William wanted a completely submissive wife to possess her and control her completely. I'm reading this, I'm just like, oh my god.
He should have married Donovan.
Oh my gosh, we'll talk about that, because seriously. Donovan, who was most certainly in love with William, turned to the dark arts in order to make William's wish come true. So yeah, in my mind, Donovan is a gay guy that's just in love with William.
Probably. It's the only possible explanation. I mean, I have very good friends, dear friends that I love very much. I have never turned to the dark arts in order to help them, especially help them being abusive in a relationship. So maybe he was in love / obsessed with
Yes. So yeah, I have some theories about that, which I'll talk about at the end too, because questions.
I have questions.
Yes.
In chapter 8, we're presented to Miranda, which is the other key player. She had traveled the world and she was studying arts and magical practices. So she would oppose to William's demeanor with Isabella. After time, Isabella would get intense headaches and would appear to be fighting for her own mind. Isabella had an important commission for a painting that William opposed and destroyed it while under his control. Miranda told a young Lucille that since William was using magic unjustly, that they would use magic to counter it. We read a letter Isabella wrote to William about their faltering love on August 23rd, 1931. When I was reading this chapter, I was like, what a great idea. I'm going to talk to this kid who is, I don't know, 10 max, about how her stepfather, I guess, is using dark magic to control her mother. And that's gonna be fine, right? I mean,
Yeah. Chapter 9. At P3, Phoebe fills her sisters in on the rest of the story. Okay, so yeah, this is continuing the story that Lucille was telling Phoebe. So there's a lot of exposition throughout this. Oh, you're getting naked on me? Oh, I love it. Okay. Miranda and Lucille told Isabella what was happening. So this is back in the past. So back then, Miranda, her friend, and Lucille, as a little girl, this is when she was a child, they tell Isabella that they've been doing some magic on you. Be aware. So Isabella then stopped fighting William completely, about their relationship, because she's acting like I'm going to be the subservient wife to you. I'll do whatever you say during the day, and then at nighttime she would sneak off and paint his portrait. Because as long as she was playing along, he would have less reason to use magic on her at all. So that was her kind of way around it.
of all the things she could have been doing, sneaking out at night, she was just painting a picture of him.
Yeah, right. For reasons. I just love you so much. I'm going to paint a picture of you.
She could have played that way. She didn't have. I think she could have said I'm going to paint a picture of you because you're so beautiful. I love you so much.
Right. That would have been easy.
Yeah.
When the portrait was finished, Miranda cast a spell that bound William's essence to it. So now we know what that was for. There was some kind of spell that put him in the painting. This is interesting, though, because while his essence, I guess his soul was in the painting, William's body remained.
Yeah. I think it aged, but it aged slower.
So slower. Because 70 years.
How we see in the end of the book how it is. It seems like it aged. But it's a very dark thing.
Yeah.
I don't think they would have gotten away with that on the TV show. So this body.
Exactly.
But when I was reading this chapter, I don't know about you, but I was reading this chapter. I kind of knew what was going on, more or less. Because if you watched Charmed, there is an episode on season 2 where they're trapped inside a painting. And I was like, good. So I would like some of the characters maybe to have mentioned it because it's something you don't forget about. Maybe they could have made a scene where, I don't know, Piper and Phoebe were telling Paige about that because she was not there for it. And then it would have tied it more closely to the TV show.
Yeah, it would have made sense that they would have brought that up. Hey, this is just like this. Do you remember that curse painting? Just bring it up because that would have been...
type of thing you forgot, I guess.
Yeah. So, yeah, I actually have one. I have that curse painting in my collection.
That's so good.
So William's body remained, but would age over time. But it was hidden. So they hid the body, and then wherever they hid it, sometime after, it was stolen by Donovan. So now Donovan has the body of William. I wonder what it was doing with it.
There is a name for it.
Necrophilia? What? Oh. Anyway.
Pretty sure. That's how he
That's how he coped. I was like, I'll get married in public, and then I'll go over to my body friend over here and have some fun.
The soulless body of my lover at night. Haven't we all?
So Gil suddenly rushes into P3 and tells Piper that there has been another murder. Norman Jones, the drunk Mr. Grizzly guy from before that he kind of diffused, was the victim. So he's been killed now. So now we know that your P3 patron was killed after he was here. So, gasp.
At this point, did you start being suspicious of Gil and what his storyline would be?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm just like, how convenient.
Because one thing that is very different from the books, at least from this book and the others I've heard, from the TV shows, that in the TV shows sometimes you have the A line and the A story and the B story.
Right.
They merge somehow or not at all. But in the book, everything is just one story. So at this point, I was like, something fishy about Gil, but also maybe just a story that Piper can be involved in.
Exactly. And the thing about these two, because sometimes narratives, stories, and shows, they try to lead you off. They try to make you think things that might not happen. So it's like I was like, which way will this go? Cool.
Always be suspicious of the very good looking, very professional white man that pops in your life and solves all your problems. It's
Yeah.
probably a setup. Chapter 10, we have Daryl, hot Daryl, coming to P3 as part of the murder investigation. Daryl and Piper discuss how the killer take trophies, body parts of his victims. So far, eyes, tongue, nose, ears, and our hands were all taken. And then she connects that with the senses, and also all of the victims were physically strong, which makes me scared for my life.
I know. I mean, here in Milwaukee, we had Jeffrey Dahmer.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, Jeffrey Dahmer is from Milwaukee, and he would, lure people to his apartment to say, will you model for me? I'm like, that could have been me if I was old enough at the time. It's scary.
That could be if it was happening today. And do you know how I know about Jeffrey Dahmer?
How?
Kesha. She has a song called Cannibal, and then she says something like, I'll pull Jeffrey Dahmer. And I was like, who is this person she's mentioning? And then I went to research and I was like, oh, nice.
I got that under our belt. Yay.
Hey.
But yeah, so head and shoulders, knees and toes, they're all taken. It's the senses. So, which is crazy. But I kept thinking, like, is he going to steal someone's penis? I kept thinking that.
What sense?
I know, maybe that was just me, but I'm like, oh, he's taking body parts. Oh.
Because, it's weird. It reminisces of the Silence of the Lambs kind of stuff. At some point, I thought that he would remake the body or something, make a new body, a Frankenstein kind of body to put the soul back or whatever.
It's very Krypto, where they dug up the bodies and stitched them together to summon him. Yeah. So I was thinking, like, do they need to get every piece of the body and put it together, like make a own little mannequin? But it's all the senses, so we know that now.
And then we have a mentioning of Prudence, Miss Prue.
Yes, Prue.
Which is I always like when they mention Prue. I always like it.
That's great.
I often wonder what would have happened to Charmed if she hadn't left, because I think that by season 4, season 5, they would have added a character like Paige to freshen the show up.
Right.
Much like they did with season 8. And also what would have happened if during that moment, actually, Phoebe was written out of the story.
I mean, no, I've seen there's art and stuff like that. There's fan made things like that, and some people would have preferred Phoebe leave. I've seen a lot of fans that wanted Phoebe to go instead, or maybe it would have been cool to see if they all survived and then Paige comes along too. Like, What do we do? How does this power of 3 work now?
I'm a Paige bitch, so she does no wrong in my eyes. But I think that people often say, oh, if Phoebe was written out of the show, it would have been a better show. But they don't know that, so it's easy to make that assumption. But if you are a long-term Charmed fan, you know that there is the first 3 seasons and then the other seasons. So it's the Charmed with Prue and Charmed with Paige. It's a very different show. Even the way they shoot the TV show changed between season 3 and 4. I think the show would have gotten much, much darker and even a little more sexual, because by season 3, Shannon, she was hot. And she was making sure the writers would write scenes that she could look banging, because she has the most incredible scenes on season 3. I was so sad when she died.
Oh my god! I mean, season 3 is so good, and it's especially a good season for Prue. Oh my gosh, she is hot. She's wonderful. She's confident. I loved her hair. Her length of hair in that season. Like, yeah, she's great. But I could rant all day on that. But yeah, there was an awkward scene because Piper mentions Prue, and Gil's like, "Oh, when do I get to meet her?" And then it's like, "Oh." Like, that was so awkward. It was sad, but I was like, oh, I couldn't imagine.
Gil reveals that he was close to his father and that his mother was never around. And we are given a letter by William to Isabella, which is just sugar-coated misogyny. And I, being someone who studied literature, Look at me playing that card. It's very interesting to see that they put this letter right after Gil talks about his relationship or lack of thereof with women and
Right.
how he doesn't trust. So it's already a hint of what's to come.
Yeah, the letter was very strange because it's always like, Isabella, if you really loved me, you would do what I say. It's like, real? Oh, okay.
All right.
How do you think that's okay? I don't know, but sure.
It was the 1920s.
Maybe.
However, I don't think voicing that would sound very good to a woman who is an artist,
No.
very accomplished, very rich. So
Yeah.
if you say, if you love me, you're going to do whatever I say, I'm going to be like, no.
I'm like, bitch.
I've
Like, get out of here.
done it before. I would do it again. There are other ways to convince me to do things you want.
Yeah. Chapter 11. Okay. So, Paige and Phoebe find Miranda Nance in the Book of Shadows. So, this lady that was well-traveled and she would study the magic of other cultures is actually in the book. Haha. And it was written by an anonymous Warren witch who met Miranda at a gallery opening. So, who would you... We say it's anonymous, but who was alive at that time? So, it had to be Baxter or Bowen, probably, who would have met her.
1920s. Maybe Granny.
Who?
Gramps.
Grams? Well, she would have been a kid.
So
I forget. I forget what year. It would have been her mother that would have been around. Because this was like early 1930s, so a little bit after the 1920s that we saw. It would have been a couple years after. So Russell would have been dead.
But would it kill people to sign? Like, this is my edition, this is my potion. I would do it. I would
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Miranda was not a witch, just well studied. Phoebe cast a spell to find the entrapment spell that Miranda used back then to curse William. So let's see if we can find that spell she used. Where they cast a spell to find a spell. I don't like that. It just seems messy to me. I think it's used too often. Like,
Wouldn't you?
that's-
Wouldn't you? I lost my credit card today. If I had magical powers, I would have not looked for it for 1 second. If I was Paige, I would be like, if I were Paige, I would be like, credit card, and then.
Well, yeah, that I would do. But I think, I don't know. I feel like you could have flipped through the Book of Shadows and found it.
She just wants to show her powers because she has so few of them.
Yeah, right. But yeah.
Which I think about that, about the lack of powers that Phoebe has. I think with the casting. Because Alisa Milano, she was, even though she was very famous as a kid, she has a musical career that if you haven't watched it on YouTube,
Japan, I know.
Suggest you. It's amazing for all the
it's
rock
great.
music. But and then she did some softcore kind of movies, and then she did Charmed. And I think because she was in my perception, Shannon was the best known of the bunch. But she was a very second in terms of how famous she was. She was gorgeous. She still is. And I think that the character, if she was gorgeous and very nice and very powerful, it wouldn't make sense with the show.
So they find this entrapment spell that Miranda used. Then they meet up with Piper, and they tell her that Miranda's spell has Egyptian origins. And like Osiris's body was scattered after his death and brought back together by Isis, this spell must do the same. So they have to bring his body back, or like collect pieces of his body to put together. So they believe William's mind was freed, and it's killing and consuming body parts to regenerate his body. And this point is where I got confused, because I'm like, how can a aimless mind thing kill people? I don't understand. And then they do mention they question that in the next chapter. So I was like, okay, good.
Yeah.
At least they don't understand it either.
At this time, we are moving like
Momentum.
further than the middle of the book. By this time, I was like, there is someone helping the killer, which is what Paige wonders in chapter 12.
Yeah.
But in the back of my mind, I'm like, is it Gil? Is it not Gil? Am I being played by the author? If it's not him, what is his point in the story? What is his storyline? He's just there to give Piper some free time to engage in the rest of the
Right.
And then also chapter 12, Phoebe discovers online that Miranda was found dead with her tongue and hands removed, and all of her artwork was destroyed. Very sad.
Donovan? Question mark? Yeah.
Maybe. But Donovan goes on a messy kind of destruction path after
Yeah.
the death of his alleged lover. Um, and then the sisters think Lucille is likely in danger and that there must be a regeneration spell that William plans to use. And there is a very Voldemort kind of Voldemort kind of writing. That part was just like, in my mind, it was like a guess he had,
Yeah.
and saying that that this person is exhausted and that he is determined to do what he thinks needs to be done.
So what, another mysterious, vague description of somebody. There we go. Chapter 13, Phoebe asks Lucille to stay at the manor to protect her. And at first she's like, I don't want to go to your house. But then Lucille jumps at the chance now to go. She's like, you didn't tell me I would be bait. Let's go. So when she finds out that she's essentially going to be bait for William, she's like, yes, I'm all in.
Oh, can I die? Great.
Right. Let's do it. I've been reclusive far too long. I need some action in my life.
Or maybe she was just tired of living in fear. She was like,
right.
I die.
Exactly.
I'm old. I'm fine.
Exactly. Lucille admits that witnessing what William had done to her mother made her afraid to see the world or start a family. So yeah, she's like, I'm not holding back anymore. I'm not going to live in fear anymore. So then the family welcomes her as their guest, and she's a great guest, and she loves Wyatt like crazy. So
I don't love Wyatt. I still can wrap my head around why is it a boy? I'm very cramped, like. But anyway, and I love Chris. I had a huge crush on Chris when I was younger, when I was watching the TV show for the first time. I was like, oh, he's so dreamy. So,
okay.
Then Piper and Gil chat at the P3 about the merits of rolling with the punches versus making a decision and seeing it through. Piper sends Gil to handle a customer's argument over a table. This chapter is basically to tell us that Gil is great, he's saving everything, and that Piper is tired.
Yeah, there you go. It was a very quick, easy chapter. Chapter 15, Phoebe and Paige perform a scrying spell with printed copies of William's painting because they don't have anything that's actually from William or anything that he owned or anything. So, let's print a picture of his portrait and say a spell with scrying and hope that it works.
I think they've done that before in the TV show, though, scrying with an object of a person.
Well, that's what they're supposed to do, yeah. Because... yeah, this one was a little bit different because they didn't have an actual object. They just kind of have something that represents him instead, which is why they couldn't just scry. They had to say the spell with it.
But do you think that it's okay?
Yeah, I don't mind that because I think if they just scried with it, I would have called shenanigans. But because they did a spell to overcompensate for that and to amplify it, it makes sense to me.
And that's the beauty of the book. They have time to make a spell to explain why there is crime. Because if it was a TV show, it would be like crying here with the pictures printed, or you wouldn't even see what they're using, just the crystal dangling around.
Yeah. The spell pinpointed the Mural House, so it's there. Then it cuts to a man feeling power. I feel so powerful. He drinks a red liquid and wants more. What could this red liquid be? Oh.
If it was me, it would be wine. This sentence makes a lot of sense. It resonates with me. I'm feeling powerful. I'm drinking wine, and then I want more power and more wine. So
I mean, I'm all for that. Sure.
In chapter 16,
16. Oh.
Together. All right. Chapter 16, Lucille answers the manor door to find Darrow, but stranger danger compelled her to ask for his badge. To ask him to wait outside, far away from the house, which I think is great.
It's so great.
And it makes sense with this story. I mean, Darrow would be the person who would be like, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah, exactly.
So she leaves him at the porch, locks the door, which I think is the first time this door has ever been locked. And informs the sisters, which is it's a very adorable, it's a very grandmother kind of thing to do.
Right. It's great. I mean, she's so on it. She's like, I don't know this person. Let me confirm to make sure he is who he says he is. And, so it's really a wonderful moment for her. I love it.
Daryl says there's been another murder. A neighbor found blood pooling out under an apartment door. A woman's throat slashed, ear to ear. And he at this point, there is something in the book that says it was almost as if they wanted to detach her head. And I was like, is it? Maybe, new face? Not sure. Then they narrow down which regeneration spell William is planning, leaving the only thing left to get is the heart of his enemy, Lucille. Daryl is disgusted to learn that William is to eat the still beating heart of Lucille in that case. I like this part. I'm not sure it would have made to television.
No. And there's a lot of books. I mean, this is the first one you read, but there are a lot of books that are definitely more graphic than we would have seen on the show. This is some like CSI crazy stuff.
It's very much like if you take out the magical part of everything, it's pretty much a novel of mystery. For me, it was reminiscent of Agatha Christie in a way, because you already know the characters, and when you read a lot of Agatha Christie, you know the characters already. So for me, it was a very similar experience.
For sure.
So Daryl is disgusted, but I don't think he's really disgusted because he's seen worse.
No, but he's just like gross. Like he's really going to eat someone's heart. Like, yeah. Chapter 17. Piper and Lucille decide to scope out a grocery store for the killer. Like, this grocery store is right next to the Mural House, so maybe he has to go and do like normal civilian things to stay alive. Like, let's go to the grocery store.
This part of the story make little to no sense to me.
It was a little odd. It's like, if he's around, he has to get like toiletries and groceries. I'm like, all right, sure. But lo and behold, the killer is there, and he notices Lucille. He's like, oh, when you left the hospital, I lost track of you, but now I found you again. Haha, I got you now. And then he starts singing Amazing Grace.
Because why not?
Because he's crazy. It's like, I once was lost, but now I am found. And then the checkout girl's like, oh, you're singing Amazing Grace. You have a beautiful voice.
Please heal me.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, thanks. That's pretty much that chapter.
This chapter, I mean, it's a filter. It makes no sense in the rest of the story. It's just so, I think it's just so the killer notices Lucille, but
yeah,
do we have to go through that? And then this kind of thing?
It was weird.
Right. On chapter 18, Paige researched Donovan and discovered he was married. His wife died in childbirth, and then he and his son disappeared. Phoebe at work read an Ask Phoebe letter. Let's use this word loosely.
Yeah.
Read an Ask Phoebe letter from a woman that could relate to Isabella's letter. Her boyfriend had been acting similarly, so acting almost in a possessed manner.
Yeah.
Phoebe gives Paige the woman's address and asks to ask more questions. Gil calls Piper and says that an old man slept outside of P3 and is threatening to sue the club. Piper, Lucille, and Wyatt head out to take care of it. When I was reading this chapter, I really, at this point, I was like, is there going to be anything about this person who wrote to Phoebe? Or is it just the same trip to the grocery store kind of stalling?
And pretty much it was just there to be there. I think it was there to throw us off maybe a little bit, or maybe, I don't know. It was a bust though. Nothing, not important at all. Chapter 19. This is the doozy of a chapter. This is the big showdown chapter. So Phoebe's co-worker got excited when she learned that a man decided to take his wife's last name, because I guess this co-worker, she's the one that's in charge of writing the obituaries, and she's in charge of writing the wedding announcements in the paper. So she's like, oh my gosh, look, how cute is this? The husband is taking the wife's last name. Isn't that so sweet? And Phoebe had an aha moment just there. She's like realizing that that's probably how Donovan hid in plain sight. He married and then took the wife's last name. How shady, how scandalous.
I would like to go shenanigans. I don't think Phoebe is that smart.
Piper and Lucille go to the club to appease the old man that wants to sue the club. So he's inside, and the old man is just kind of being very belligerent, and he's very angry.
And
But
this is the piperst piper has ever pipered in this book. I really saw Mary because it was so amazing. She was like, I'm gonna tell Gil to turn on the lights because it's time to show this person who's the boss.
yes,
Very, very much Piper from mid-season 4 until
exactly.
season 7.
Because she's like, why are the lights off? She's like, I don't like. I told him not to turn them on because I don't like the lights. They hurt my eyes. Like, screw you. We're turning on the lights. I need to see your face. Like, okay. So she tells him to turn on the lights. All right, cool. This is where it's like this. Okay, so the lights are coming on slowly, one by one, breaker by breaker, and you slowly start to see the man being revealed. And it's like, what was wrong with you anyway? He's like, I was betrayed by a treacherous woman. And then the light comes on to him, and it soon reveals that his body is like in flux. So it's like sometimes he's handsome, sometimes he's like decrepit. He's like a mixture of the two. Very crazy. And then we know that this is William Lancaster. This is his body. This is his spirit. Gasp galore.
This gasp that you wrote here is very RuPaul's Drag Race for me.
I'm gagging. Yeah.
With Tia Gunn in season 6. Gasp.
But yeah, it was a very it was a very creepy moment just because of the way, I just imagined it. It's like, I hear the light, you hear the breakers, see the lights slowly come on, and he just like gets very cynical and very like threatening. Like, I got goosebumps.
Expose his whole plan for us.
Yes. So now we cut back to Phoebe on the phone with Paige, and she tells Paige that both Donovan and his son took the names of their wives, who then mysteriously disappeared. So they married somebody and then killed them or something. Donovan Hawthorne's grandson took the name of Townsend. So it's Gil. Double gasp. Oh man. And I totally saw this coming. I knew that what she was gonna say, but I still got goosebumps, which is crazy. Like, I knew it was happening, but I'm just like, I think just the way it was revealed, I was like, ah.
I was just very, very, very happy to be right. I love being right. It's one of my hobbies.
Yeah, like, I saw this. Look at me. I win.
Yeah. But it's a common thing in detective novels that you lead your reader with you until the very end, when you give the reader some clues, but the reader should discover it before the characters on the book.
Right.
So this is basically what's happening here, but I was very pleasantly surprised to be right.
Yeah, love it. So, back at the club, Piper is confronted by William, but then blindsided by Gil, because she's like, Gil, get him, he's crazy. But Gil's like, that's not going to happen, Piper. And she's like, what? So she's like blindsided by this. She's like, oh my gosh. So she's got the crazy old man in front of her. She's got Gil behind her. So Piper is like, tells Lucille, she's like, Lucille, take Wyatt. I'm going to freeze this scene. But when she goes to see Lucille, she finds that Lucille is like spasming. Her fingers are tight. Her body is shaking. Her mouth is opening and closing. So they have control of her mind, pretty much. They're infiltrating her mind. Terrifying stuff. I'm like, oh. So she can't get her hands free to freeze anything. Lucille's freaking out. It's like a mess. Okay. So Gil gloats that Lucille won't be able to help her. Gil ties Piper and Lucille up with okay, so Lucille is holding Wyatt, and they're tied together, and then she has Piper tied in another chair. But now Lucille has her mind free once again, because now that she's tied up, he doesn't have to be controlling her, so she's like back to normal.
Now that you're saying, what about Wyatt's shield?
I know. Why isn't the force field up? What's up with that?
It didn't occur to me when I was reading, because I was so involved.
Invested, yeah.
But when you were describing the scene, I was like, something should have happened here. Should have had the force field.
Maybe they're still in this moment where they're trying not to expose magic to Lucille, which I have a whole thing about that too. But it seems, but Wyatt is a kid. He would do his powers instinctively.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just a little odd, but you're right. So they're tied up. Lucille has her mind once again. She calls William a monster. Gil believes that it's his life work to assist William. So Donovan had a son, that son had a son, and they are all obsessed with assisting William and doing whatever he wants. They're just raised to have that love, that gay love for William.
Not just love. There's a little bit of a fetish there.
Fetish, obsession, insanity, whatever it is. It's crazy.
I think it's a little bit of all of that.
Yes. So William is angry now, spouting that if Isabella truly loved him, she would have given him what he wanted. I'm like, fuck that shit, bitch. Like, no. Like, I hate you, dude. I hate you.
Cut it out after that. Because when I was reading, William is angry, spouting that if Isabella truly loved him, she would have given him what he wanted. My mind goes straight to anal. I bet.
I mean, maybe that would have fixed everything.
It does. Sometimes it's all it needs. It's the same thing I have when I listen to Adele when she sings. I bet she gave you things I didn't give to you. I was like, hey, just talking about it.
I got it. Yep, I feel it. So Phoebe and Paige arrive at P3 to help the situation. They know what's up. They come to save Piper. Paige orbs Lucille and Wyatt out. Like, you get out of here. We'll fight the fight. But since Paige had to leave to go orb them, it's just Piper and Phoebe left. William and Gil are frustrated. They're like, we needed her heart. Now they've ruined our plans. So Gil grabs an athame and comes after Piper, believing that the heart of a friend of his enemy would suffice just enough for the spell. So it's like, you're friends with my enemy, your heart will do just fine. Got it.
Think it would have worked?
I think it would have, because a friend of your enemy essentially makes them your enemy too. So I think in that sense.
But I think that Piper is more Gil's enemy than William's enemy.
That's true. That's true.
Maybe it wouldn't work.
Maybe it wouldn't have worked. Then they would have.
But he has to kill her either way.
Either way, Phoebe intervenes and attacks Gil head to head. And of course, she insults his male ego to egg him on, like, come after me, pretty boy, whatever. So they're fighting. Paige orbs back and unties Piper. William trips Phoebe with his wheelchair, giving Gil an opening to stab her. So this is like all things after another. There's an intense battle happening here. So now Gil's gonna like stab Phoebe. She's on the floor. He's gonna get her. Piper freezes the scene just in time.
I love that your hand gesture was exactly the same of freezing.
So yeah, and so the sisters then recite a spell that summons they kind of get in the middle. They join hands. They recite a spell, and it summons like this ball of light. And this is like a manifestation of their own minds, their combined consciousness in the middle of the room. The light moves over to William then and starts to like come over his face. So Piper then unfreezes William just as the light enters him, and William tries to fight the mental takeover. So pretty much they're going to take over his mind the way that he was taking over Isabella's mind. It's like, so poetic justice.
It's similar to the plan that Isabella's had with the other woman. I forgot her name.
Miranda?
Yeah, to use the same technique, but reversed.
Yeah, exactly. So they kind of took that practice. So with the sisters' consciousness taking over William, he's going a little bit crazy. The sisters do continue chanting. They say another add-on to their spell. But Sister William began to spasm around the room, and then he eventually moves himself into the path of Gil's athame. Piper unfreezes Gil, who then stabs William in the heart. Yes.
Nice.
Ta-da. So William's dying, and Gil's like cries, like, what have I done? And William's just like, I feel at peace. And then he dies.
Does he feel at peace?
I don't know.
He was very angry like 5 seconds ago.
This book, it tries to make you feel like William was just corrupted by the dark arts and he's really a nice guy, but I'm going to get into that too. Yeah, so
a little bit of a redemption moment.
A little redemption. I'm at peace now. Thanks for killing me.
Yeah.
And
so the last chapter, everything's been solved. We just have like the It would be the very last scene of the episode. Phoebe and Lucille walk into the Mural House and note that the portrait of William does feel at peace now. And in retrospect, now her mother and Miranda are too. Gil has become almost catatonic now, feeling he has no purpose because he doesn't. He says his sole purpose was to do that and he failed. Lucille vows to keep the sisters secret and decides that she wants to finally see the world and travel. I do think this chapter has something very nice because at this point, Lucille has been exposed to magic. She has seen shit that she can't understand or explain.
Yeah.
And even though she already knew it existed, it's one thing to know it exists, and a very completely different other thing to have experienced it.
Yes.
But she says something like to Phoebe along the lines of, you don't have to explain because I don't want to understand. I'm
Right.
grateful your secret is safe with me, and now I'm going to spend all my money traveling and seeing the places I had only seen through pictures.
So yeah, the end. And I think about like Gil's just like crazy. It's so weird that he was raised to be so in service of this person, and without it, he's just doesn't. I feel like it was almost like maybe dark arts was used on them too to compel them to do this. Who knows?
Yeah.
But crazy. So overall thoughts. What are your final thoughts on the
I
story?
loved it. I loved it. I think it is a very nice story. There are some moments that are a little off if you think about the show, but there are lots of other moments that are very much true to the characters and the story and all this reality that Charmed has created over the seasons. The way Piper kills them, like putting them against each other, has been done before. So I liked it. I liked it very much.
Yeah, I thought this was a really good story. It was quite interesting throughout. I did have a problem with the way um, information was relayed a little bit in the early chapters. It was a little too exposition heavy.
Yes.
Um, I thought that it would have been better if they like showed us instead of just telling us everything.
What was sad, there was no subtext in this book. It's all text.
No.
There is no
It was,
subtext.
it was all just like, here's what happened. I'm going to tell you point blank what happened. So I was like, oh, I was a little annoyed at how that was relayed. I thought the ending was like my favorite climax of, I think, pretty much any of the books so far. It was a really good climax because it was like haunting, and it was full of like this payback, and it was very satisfying. So I like the poetic justice in me was really happy with it.
It's a
And
lot of witchcraft. It's not just
yes,
magic. It's a lot of witchcraft.
exactly. A lot of these books are just like, we're gonna say a spell and they're vanquished.
Mm-hmm.
And this did not have that. It spun it on its head a little bit and had a creative conclusion.
And it was very descriptive in the way the ball of light was created and how everything is done. It was very nice because it doesn't clash with what we see in the TV show. It just adds an extra layer of delicious,
Right.
if you like,
Right.
witchcraft and dark arts and
Hmm. And I think it was kind of refreshing too that the antagonists, they weren't demons, they weren't warlocks, they were just people that got involved in dark magic. They were just involved with it, but they weren't. They were human,
yeah, I love
which
that.
is that's kind of cool.
And for me, my favorite episodes of Charmed, they are usually not when they're saving the world, but just among them. It's a situation or that the girls have gotten into, or not like let's save the whole entire world, but more like this kind of situation, like that they got involved more or less by accident, and then they have to solve it. These are my favorite Charm stories.
Yeah, yeah. So, so I'm gonna get going into the exposition again because it went over like the course of 3 chapters, just telling you stuff. I think we could have had like flashback scenes. We could have even had premonitions of just showing you stuff.
She didn't have any premonition.
Right.
There
Like,
was
she could have had a flashback of the past and seen what kind of happened instead of just being relayed the story. But I would have liked that more.
could have had a premonition right before or when Lucille faints, when she sees the picture. She could
Exactly.
have had one when she touches her.
At the hospital.
Yeah, exactly. And then you wouldn't have that very long dialogue.
Exactly. I thought having the Isabella William letters was really clever. I did like those because even that filled us in on a lot of what the exposition they just told us. They could have just had those letters in there. We would have figured stuff out.
Exactly.
It is old magic to eat people who have the traits you're looking to have because, he was trying to take their body parts to get stronger and, kill strong people to have that strong energy.
And this is something that people actually did, not just for but like people believed that when they conquered a nation, they would kill the warriors and eat them they thought it would give them power. It would give them protein, but not necessarily power.
Yeah, cults, ancient civilizations, and crazies have been doing that for years,
Exactly.
So I put, why doesn't Phoebe tell Lucille she's a witch, like, before this? Because she was going on, she's like, I can't tell you. And she's trying to beat around the bush. I'm like, she's old, she's aware of some kind of magic with her mother. It's kind of ridiculous how adamantly she was keeping it from her.
I just think she didn't say because it didn't need to be said.
Yeah.
It's kind of understood, so it was better not to touch that side.
I guess so. Piper is noted to be the best scryer, which made me laugh because I'm like, how hard is it to scry, really?
And I don't remember seeing Piper scry a lot. I see Paige crying a lot because she doesn't have a job.
yeah, Piper scryed, but it's like, how would you be any better at it than somebody else? All you do is wave it around.
Stronger. It's all tied to her powers.
Maybe that's what it is.
I think that circling back to Prudence, if Prue was still there at this point, it would be very interesting to see because Piper is so strong as a witch, and Prue was already so strong, and Prue was focused, like laser focused. So she would have become like this powerhouse of a witch, and I think the tone of the stories would have been even stronger.
Yeah. Those italicized like villain moments, those like soliloquies of the bad guys, I found them a little bit confusing. Now knowing the story, I could go back and tell who it was, but I think it was a mixture of William and Gil, and I was always confused who was talking, who was who.
I think it was both of them.
Yeah, I think it was both too.
Sorry,
yeah, but I was just like, at what moment exactly was William's mind freed? When did he reconnect with his body? When did he start consuming body parts? I'm just not clear the timeline of when all that happened. I would have liked to have more context.
I think what I grasped from it was that because of the beating heart, probably he would still have to eat the body parts while it was hot and warm and lush and delicious. So I imagine it would be quite right after the murder.
Yeah.
And then the body part would regenerate.
And I have here the book notes that William was not an evil man, just easily corruptible. But I say screw that. He's an asshole. Like, even before he did the dark arts, the fact that he wanted to control his wife, you're an asshole. Point blank. I'm sorry.
And you got what you deserved in the end.
Exactly. So, cool. That's all I have for my general thoughts. Now we'll get into put that in my canonical hat.
Canonical.
And this is the segment where we take the story and determine what is and what is not true to the narrative of the show, and if this could legitimately be an episode. So,
yeah, when I started reading the book, I put the episode that comes right after the Three Blonde Witches one because I don't like that episode a whole lot.
Okay.
To see where the TV show was, because also in this season, Paige looks so beautiful. I love Ginger Paige, and I love short hair Phoebe. So I popped the TV show, and it was crazy, and I was like, but there is no craze in the book. So this was for me the first thing that really ruffled my feathers. I was like, maybe there is a situation here that we need to attend. Was it a problem for you?
See, for me, because I said this story could have easily taken pretty much anywhere in early season 6. There wasn't a lot of descriptors that would put it somewhere specifically. Of course, you could say if it's early season 6, that Chris would be there. So, like, where's Chris? Same with the last book. You can say, where's Chris? But really, because his existence doesn't have any bearing on the plot of what's happening.
Sure.
I didn't see it as a huge problem with the canon. I mean, because he could be around, or he could have just be like on some other mission or something, or who knows what his things was. Just because he wasn't integral to this story, I didn't see it as a major problem.
The
But
storyline, it's very confusing to me to this day, because I get the feeling whenever I watch the first episodes he appeared that the the writers put him there, but they didn't fully realize what the story would be, and then they were like, "Oh, so this is going to be the son." I have this distinct feeling that when he arrived, they didn't have fully realized the story of the character. It was just a new character to freshen the show and make it more budget friendly.
oh, definitely, I believe that wholeheartedly. Because because they were making him kind of very morally ambiguous. Killing Valkyries and doing all this shady stuff. Like, are you good or bad? And I think maybe were they trying to make him Wyatt, like from the future, who was evil? And then things had to shift when they found out Holly was pregnant for real, and all that stuff. So
So I think that was the thing that for me, it seemed a little disjointed with the whole Charmed timeline. But maybe if it was placed before the appearance of Chris, it would make perfect sense.
right.
I think you're going to have more facts because you are more
I have some
knowledgeable.
thought. I have some things.
That you have about Leo, and because I think he should have been an elder by now.
Leo should have been an elder. Yes, that's in there. Leo was only mentioned in this story. He was no key player in the story at all.
Which is
Um,
fine by me. I'm not a Leo fan.
yeah,
Don't hate me.
and you're not the only one. There's a lot of people that don't like Leo. I know it's fine. So let's see. I put because they call Piper's car the family vehicle, and why are Phoebe and Paige carpooling with Piper and babysitters before their event when both of them have cars? Phoebe has a car, Paige has a car. They don't need to be taking Piper's car everywhere.
They're looking out for the environment.
Yes, save on that gas money that they.
Money's tight, the elders are not coming in with the checks. So
Yes. In this story, they do mention Andy, but they say that he was Prue's fiance, which is not true. They were not. They were only lovers.
I'm trying to remember. Yeah, there was no proposal.
No, they were never married. They were never engaged.
Do you
So
think that Andy's departure of the show was really because of the fighting between the actor and actress? Or do you think it was plot solution? Because it makes a lot of sense in the story.
yeah, I mean, I know he asked to leave. I don't know all the ins and outs. I don't know if there was having conflict or not. I've heard rumors about that, but I don't
I
know that.
I love for the behind the scene drama. I love it. For me, it's like it just adds an extra layer of entertainment, and I know it's or whatever, but it's another layer of entertainment for my life.
Okay, I think that's typical of people these days. That's why they watch all the reality shows.
One thing that struck me when I was talking to you right now is what would
Yeah.
we do if this was set today? Because we have the new Charmed, which we have lots of ideas from the plot that are reused. But if it was today, probably Phoebe would be a YouTuber answering
Oh yeah,
comments with problems, and it would still make, and then it would make sense that she had tons of money to spare.
exactly. She would be the popular YouTuber, like, hey guys, I'm here today to give you my advice of the week.
And she was gorgeous, which makes sense for YouTube. And then
Yeah,
she would be like, don't forget to like or subscribe.
exactly. Next week I'm going to be doing a makeup tutorial just for fun. Like,
So follow this tutorial while I give you advice on her life. And by the way,
exactly.
advices are very commonplace.
She'd be hella popular on YouTube.
She would. She would make me, I think so. This is a skit waiting to happen. Call me,
Yes.
Alyssa. Call
I
me.
mean, think of how popular Alyssa is on TikTok already. I mean, it's pretty much the same thing.
Well, yeah. See, it makes sense. It would have been a great addition to the story.
Hmm. Yeah. This one doesn't bother me so much, but I'll note it just to note it because they say Daryl was just a detective when he was really promoted to lieutenant in Y Tu Mami Tambien in season 5. He was promoted by now.
Your knowledge is scary.
But yeah, I don't get too perturbed by that. As long as he's working for the police, that's fine. Okay, that's all I got then. I would have loved this as an episode. I think, just include some acted out flashback scenes maybe, or the premonition we talked about, and give context a little bit more. But as a whole, the story would be good. I got goosebumps. I really loved it. I thought it was thrilling. I thought it would have been a great, a very Ghostbusters 2 energy kind of story.
Mhm. It would have some adaptations would have been made to be less graphic, but I think it would be a one episode, fine, a great episode.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, now we'll get into rhyme time.
Should we try a spell?
Why not? Let's try a spell.
In the wind, I sing this rhyme. Bring death before me, before my time.
You've really got to lay off the rhyming brew.
Wonderful. Witty, but wordy.
I did the rhyme. I will do the time. Good night.
So the first spell is to find Miranda Nance's entrapment spell. So this is the one they use to make the Book of Shadows reveal Miranda's spell. Ancient ancestors, magic warriors, aid me in my time of trial. Reveal your secret, share your knowledge, show me Miranda Nance's spell.
Doesn't rhyme.
Doesn't really rhyme, does it?
Doesn't rhyme.
It's not. There's some really strong wordage, but it's not it doesn't have flow, the right flow to it.
Because I remember, I don't know if it was Charmed or if it was Sabrina, but there is a show where they say that the spells have to rhyme to work, and they paint it back to Shakespeare. I think it is Sabrina. They say that's why Shakespeare wrote like that. I was like, that's clever. That's clever.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't love it.
Next, this crying spell.
Looks like a long thing for you.
It was a very long spell. There was like the 4 elements combined with the 4 directions, a map, a gold chain, 2 photos linked to the target. And then you place the 4 candles on each direction of the map. Light them in order, north, south, east, and west, and chant the following. It's like I'm teaching people. See, this is how you do it. You want to find someone.
Exactly.
You want to call them. Just want to stalk them. North, south, east, west. Aid me now in this my quest. What I seek, reveal to me. As I will, so mote it be. Do you think I would have been successful?
I mean, it rhymes, and it doesn't like sound too awkward. I kind of like it.
I like it. I think it's nice.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
little. It goes back to me for the craft. This whole
Yeah.
painting. Fun fact: in Brazil, when Charmed came, they gave it the same name they give to the movie The Craft, because The Craft
really?
became Young Witches, if you direct translate. So the name of the movie is Young Witches. And
Oh.
when Charmed was telecast here, they named it Young Witches to go with the flow of the movies.
Wow.
Yeah. And then there is the second part. Cast earth over the map, blow it to the edges of the map, then place a photo in a bowl of water. Light the second photo on the edges with 4 candles in the same order. Once finished, chant the following. Earth, air, water, fire. Call to... Earth, air, water, fire. Call to me my one desire. Evil hides its face, yet I would see. Where it lies, reveal to me. Then you... And you find
Yeah.
it.
Exactly. Then you scry. Yeah, I mean, it works. I think I like the first part a little bit better, but this is still a good extension of it.
But I like that you have the whole ritual. It's not
Yes.
just spell. Yeah.
Right.
I'll try tomorrow.
Exactly. Okay, so I guess we'll do the next one is the mind control spell. This was the power of... I'll do both parts since they're kind of the same.
Cool.
So there's a power of 3 spell, and it says, powers of balance, powers of light, help us now to make things right. Join our minds in harmony. Let all bear the strength of 3. That's nice.
Mhm.
See, it's four bars, 4 lines with a nice rhyme. Perfect. And then once that was ball of light called, and then they used a spell to amplify it, to strengthen it. And it says, power of balance, pure of strong, help us now to right a wrong. Vanquish evil, set goodness free, as we will, so mote it be. And the person who wrote, Cameron Doki, She knows what works for spells. Just keep it simple. Keep it, 4
No,
lines.
but two.
Yeah, don't be crazy.
I have a question for you, actually.
Yes. Okay.
It would have if we would produce that as an episode, who would you have cast as Lucille?
Oh, that's a good question. Who is super cool and old and awesome? I don't know. Do you have anybody in mind? I'm trying to think now.
I in the beginning, whenever there is an old woman on a book, I either go to a TV host from Brazil called Abby, or
Okay.
I will go to Betty White. But in this case, I don't know her name. But do you remember Everybody Loves Raymond?
Oh, yes, the mother. What's her name?
I don't know her.
Doris Roberts, I think.
I have no idea, but
I think it's Doris Roberts.
I'll call her agent. So I think I would use her as Lucille, and as Gil, I would use Adam. What's his last name from the Star Wars movies? Adam Driver.
Yes.
Solo Adam. Do you know who it is?
Is he the
Driver. Is that
Adam
it?
Driver?
Adam Driver. Yes.
Okay.
It is the House of Gucci.
Okay. I think I know.
Yeah, because he's tall and black hair and mysterious and.
And what's great, I think of like the Three Faces of Phoebe when they summoned the old Phoebe. I feel like old Phoebe would be a lot like Lucille too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's the same because they have the same vibe.
Yeah. That just that firecracker, like they're not afraid. They're gonna do what they want to do. They don't care.
But
So
I always like to imagine how I would cast or recast
yeah.
TV shows, books, movies, whatever.
Awesome. So the next thing is best baddie rankings. Best baddie. So this is where we kind of rank the baddies we have so far in the books. This is only the second book in the set, so we have very few in the grand scheme. I have 5. No, yeah, I have 5.
Mm.
So right now, Shax is number 1. He's been winning the competition so far, so he's number 1. Number 2, I have Gil. Because I think he was very clever to infiltrate, and he made you kind of, he fed you his charm. He wasn't like Stefan, who was just really creepy. He was actually like a really good.
He was not
kinda,
creepy whatsoever.
No, you really bought him and ate him up, and I'm like, ooh, and then
Probably would have fallen from his act and died.
right, and then the crazy thing too is he was actually the serial killer. He was the person killing all these people. Oh, like it's terrifying. It's terrifying. So I have him as number 2. And for a human, that's pretty impressive. Then for number 3, I had Sinjin from the last book, The Queen's Curse. Then I had William as number 4, because he still was a complete asshole jerk who was creepy old man.
It's a great description for him.
Yes. And then I have the last one is Queen Ramona as number 5. She's my bottom at the moment. So I think they ranked pretty high, pretty well so far.
Yeah. I as a villain, William for me is a little weak.
Yeah. He didn't do much. He let Gil do all the dirty work.
Yeah, but Gil is fine.
Yeah. All right. So that's that. The next thing is our 10 things segment.
So what is our level of confidence in this plan?
10, 10, 10.
Well, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being we whoop ass, 1 being he laughs at us while we're on fire and naked, maybe you should like me.
Here's 10 things. And for this one, I had you kind of pick your favorite pictures. You asked me if you can use Book of Shadows pictures. I said sure, that's fine. So you have 5 pictures, I have 5 pictures, and we'll just tell our favorite pictures from the series.
Do you want to start?
Sure. Mine, I actually just used photographs because there's so many different photographs. So I used just like pictures that were in there. if I did the Book of Shadows, I would be like sitting here all day. I'm like, what's my favorite? I don't know. So, so my number 5, I put Leo with Wyatt and Chris, the one where he's reading them the story that's in the last episode, where they're kind of going. I'm like, that's just really. I just love seeing Leo being a dad and being cute. So
it's fair. It's fair. We have been following him for 8 years to have that moment.
Yeah. So that's my number 5. What's yours?
I didn't put them in order. Sorry.
That's okay. You can just pick ones.
But when you told me about the 5 pictures, obviously the first picture that came to my mind was the picture of the 3 sisters in the first 3 seasons. The picture that moves in the opening. So this is for me the most iconic. And then you have the whole episode telling the story about how this picture was taken. So for me, it was, I love that picture. I think it's great.
Yes.
You can see the chemistry between the 3 sisters and the 3 actresses at that point. Because if you see the unaired pilot with the other Phoebe, there is not a lot of chemistry there.
Not at all. Yeah. The way she delivered her lines was just awkward.
Yeah.
Like I didn't believe her, unfortunately. But yeah, you can't. That has to be on the list. So
Yeah.
Of course. My number 4, I have the Piper Leo wedding photo.
I love that. I put that picture as well.
Yes, I love it. And it's over there. I have it. I showed it to Brent. Let me see if you can see it. Where is it? I'll grab it.
You have a lot of memorabilia.
I do have a lot.
And I love that you have the Book of Shadows.
So there.
Oh, that's so nice. It's framed.
Yeah, and the frame is just like the one on the show too.
Yeah, it's a very. She looks so beautiful this episode. I love this episode. It's so chaotic.
Yes. So that I had that on there too, just because it looks so happy and it's really nice and it's an iconic picture. But yeah, I have this one too.
Ooh, oh, that's so nice.
I know.
So nice. I hate Alisa's hair in the first season though.
Especially in the pre-wished episode, it's just a really goofy wig.
No,
Okay.
Mama.
Yeah. Is it me again?
Yes.
Or is it you? Okay.
Because we have the same one. The way.
Oh yeah. Okay. Then I have the Piper Phoebe Page picture of this is from Forever Chapter 2 where they're just sitting on the couch, the one of them sitting on the couch and they're smiley. They all look super beautiful in it. I really like that one a lot too.
I think it's a good one.
Yeah.
I put the painting from episode 3 season 2, the one that they are trapped inside of it.
Yes.
Just because that's one of my favorite episodes ever. I love how it seems like they're trapped inside Bowser's castle in a Mario.
It's totally Bowser's castle. You got the fireballs, you got the blades. Oh my god, I love it.
It's a painting of a house, but it does it for me.
When we're done recording, I'll show you the painting because I have to pull it out. But I do have the painting here too. Cool. I have for my number 2. I have the That 70s episode Polaroid that they took with Little Prue and Little Piper and Patty.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one. The next one for me, it is from the Book of Shadows because as it may be difficult for you to choose a
favorite
one, I would have to go with Balthazar. I think it's the page that is shown the most in the entirety of the season.
It is.
And then comes to the pictures which is my next my next choice would be the series of pictures of Cole and Phoebe that she then put in the Book of Shadow to show his human form.
Yeah, the photo booth pictures.
And
yeah.
Those are my. I love that arc. I don't love Cole. I don't think it's a good relationship. But I'm also not the hugest fan of Phoebe. But I think that arc was very interesting and very human-like.
Nice. Oh, I love that. Cool. And then my number 1 is the one you mentioned, the one from the Southern Wicca and Pre-Witched. The one of the 3 of them moving together. I mean, how could you not?
How could you? How could you? And I think it's weird in a way that when they started season 4, they didn't make a similar picture, or that a picture like that doesn't appear in the opening credits.
They didn't know Paige, so they didn't take a picture with her yet, I guess. But it would have been a cool parallel.
Yeah, even if it was not like something that actually happened in the show,
Yeah.
because probably they would have a picture of the three of them in the house. They have lots of picture frames. Do you have lots of picture frames from your family or just Charmed?
You're funny. I do have some of my family, but not in this room. They're all in the living room and in the bedroom and stuff. But yeah.
I don't have.
This-
I have one picture of me because I'm self-centered, and that's it.
I was given, because I do modeling and stuff too. I was given a whole like giant painting of me. I kind of actually fits with this actually. It's a digital painting of me as Cyclops from X-Men in my movie suit, and I'm in an alleyway and I'm shooting my object blast, and my friend actually painted it, and he sent me this giant like print of it. It's insane. So I'm like, and I did have that in my living room when I lived in my own apartment. They're like, is that you? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's not a big deal. The gag of people don't get, but you will get it, is that the only picture I have is of me, as I said. But as a kid, I was like 8 or I don't know, 7, and in my mind is the picture RuPaul would be like, "Hey, what would you say to 8-year-old Gabriel?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Toughen up, bitch."
Yes.
Yeah, that would be my message.
All right, cool. So the final thing we have before we go is tips for future white letters,
I was out being a force of good in the universe.
which is the moral of the story. What do you think we learned in this book?
I was listening to the podcast about the previous book, and there is a
Yeah.
clear message there, a lesson to be learned. I'm not sure if there is a clear message that they want to pass with this book, some goody tissue stuff. I don't see that. What I learned is that if you are a misogynist, you're probably gonna die and have to eat body parts to be reborn stronger. But
There you go.
okay, here's the lesson. Don't try to control your partner. Let them be and love them for who they are, and love them for how they are and for their imperfections more than for what they have. Love them for what they're lacking, and don't try to control them. Because the moment you try to control someone, for my personal experience, this person is going to become someone else who is not the person you have originally fallen in love with. So just don't try.
Beautiful. So you give advice to that person. I'm going to give advice to the other person in the relationship. I'm going to flip in the coin.
All right.
Never compromise your own individuality for someone else. your interests, passions, opinions, and personality are important and beautiful and should never be squandered. So there you go. We got it from both sides.
In your career, because I still am baffled by the amount of people who gave their careers up in this day and age for relationships, or don't.
Yeah,
The middle ground, but don't give up your career for someone.
exactly. Cool. Well, we did it. Thank you for joining me. This was amazing. You're super fun,
Giving me-
super sexy, super fun to watch while we're recording with your beautiful testicles.
Before recording, I was a little nervous because I have never recorded a podcast before. But I mean, it's a great subject, and you're a great guy. You're a great host. I have a lot of fun listening to your podcasts, both from the Hanging with the Halliwells and this one.
Oh, good. Oh, thank you. That's awesome.
I was trying to realize how I found you online.
Mm.
And I think it was because of Brunch with the Halliwells, and then
Yeah.
I think maybe Spotify.
Like suggested.
Yes, exactly. And then Hanging with the Halliwells, because what I do, and not kidding, is I watch the episode and then I listen to both podcasts.
And it's cool because sometimes they notice things that we don't, and we notice things that they don't. I'm glad. I thank you for listening. That's awesome. Where can people find you on the social medias? Where can they see your sexy?
You can see me shirtless on Instagram at Alaueta, Alaueta, which is a made-up word.
Cool. Well, we're all about made up words, So,
Yeah.
you can follow this podcast at Words of the Witches everywhere except for Twitter. That's Words of Witches. You can email us at wordsofwitchespod@gmail.com if you feel so inclined, or DM us, fine. And then you can follow my other podcast, Hanging Out with the Hollowells. We do have a brand new podcast now, too. I'm doing 3 podcasts at the moment. We have an X-Men one called Solving for X, about the animated series of X-Men. So that's starting too. So that's what we got. I guess we'll see you in 2 weeks for the next book. Your destiny still awaits.